Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Pitcher. I'm with CP Adhesives, and I'm going to discuss a few different kinds of adhesives that are commonly used in manufacturing of stairs. I'm going to start off with the most commonly used glue, and that is PVA, polyvinyl acetate. Some people call it yellow glue, carpenter's glue, tight bond, Elmer's glue, all chemically the same kind of stuff. And it's very easy to use, relatively inexpensive, and it's one part, as you can see, easily cleaned up with just warm soapy water. When it's wet, when it's dry, it's usually cleaned up by chiseling off or sanding off. And it's got a good range of temperatures that it can be used at. It can be used as low as some formulas down to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, as with any glue, there are positives, and I've just mentioned a few for this kind of glue, but there's also downsides to it, limitations, if you will. And in this case, one of the big limitations of this kind of adhesive is that it's not particularly water resistant. If you're building stairs that are going to be outside, or if they're going to be subjected to moisture for some reason, this is probably not a great choice for you. Another couple of big concerns with this kind of adhesive is when something's made that's under stress or under load, this kind of adhesive, because it's considered plastic, thermoplastic, will tend to allow creep in a glue joint. And sometimes that doesn't really matter, but like if you're gluing up treads, not a big issue. But if you're doing a curved stair, for instance, you don't want any spring back, because when you take it on site to install it, it won't be what you want. So there are other alternatives to look at other than this product if, for instance, you need to avoid creep, or if you need a longer open time. The open time on most PVA glues, and by open time, the amount of time you have to work with the glue, is going to be about 10 minutes. You might get 15 depending on the humidity and the temperature. But there are alternatives. If you're doing a complex stair and you need 15, 20, 25 minutes of open time. One of them I've got here today is called Urea formaldehyde resin. It's not really widely available. Some folks might know it as the old DAP weldwood powder. I don't know that that's even on the market in hardware stores anymore, but of course it is still available out there. And it's very commonly used, especially in stairs, because it allows for a very long open time. It comes as a powder, which you can see here. It's mixed with water, and once it's mixed, you've got as much as a half an hour to get your pieces together and get them under pressure. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a downside, a couple of them. One is you've got to mix it with water, and that can be a headache. It's easy enough to do, but people are apprehensive about having to mix with water sometimes. It's got formaldehyde in it, and formaldehyde, well, it's been used for centuries and is a naturally occurring chemical in the human body. It is regulated these days and can be an issue depending on what type of project you're working on. The other couple of downsides to urea formaldehyde resins, it's got to be above 70 degrees for it to work. So if your shop or your environment that you're gluing in is not 70 degrees or above, this is not the adhesive you want to choose, because it simply won't cure. It will dry out, it won't cure. On the other hand, if you're looking for a rigid thermosetting glue that won't allow any movement in your piece, this is pretty much your only option. So that's urea formaldehyde resin. The third one we're going to talk about, it's kind of interesting, finding more and more uses in stair building. This one is called a reactive polyurethane adhesive. And as you can see, it's one part. And it goes down like that. And you'll see an interesting phenomenon with this in just a few minutes as I'm sitting here talking, or in theory you will. This particular glue does have some real positive aspects. As I mentioned, it's one part. It's also highly water resistant. So If you're building stairs that are going to be outside or exposed to high moisture, this is a good option for you. These glues that I've mentioned actually go in order from lowest to highest water resistance. So this, out of the 3 glues, this is your highest. The other thing it brings to the party, though, is the ability to glue more dense, oily woods. Ipe, for instance, is commonly used for stairs because of its durability, but it's also really difficult to glue. Reactive polyurethane can handle it. But as with the other glues, you'll see there are some downsides. One of the downsides is the fact that it's quite expensive. If you're doing a very, very expensive staircase, the cost of the glue is really immaterial. But over time, compared to the other 2 glues I've shared with you, it can get rather pricey. The other downside, a big downside to me, is it's very difficult to clean up. It doesn't clean up with water. If it gets on your hands, it turns black and has to basically wear off. So if you're using it, you want to be careful with it. You want to keep in mind that you're going to have a solvent like dibasic ester or limonene, something that can cut that glue and wipe it up well. And thirdly, it's not always a problem, but this glue, because of the reaction that takes place as it cures, foams as it's curing. And that foam is actually a result of the isocyanate in the glue reacting with moisture and creating carbon dioxide bubbles. And this can be a problem. I've seen people that put it on and come back in a couple hours and there's foam everywhere. But at the same time, it's not always a problem. If you're just gluing up some treads, for instance, yes, it'll foam out of the joint, but not a big issue. So this has been just a very cursory overview of some commonly used adhesives, and there's a lot more detail we can go into and a lot more alternatives out there, and we can discuss those at length over a lunch and learn session. Anyway, my name is Jeff Pitcher, CP Adhesives. Thank you for watching.